Let's talk about how to calorie count. So if you're just coming across my channel, hi, I'm Francesca. I have lost about 50 pounds in the last 3 years and maintained that weight loss. And the only successful way for me to do that has truly been through calorie counting. Now, when I talk about calorie counting, people usually are like, wait, how do you calorie count? So I feel like it's important to make this video, talk about it, show you how to do it, and explain it. So what is calorie counting? It is just the process of tracking everything that you eat throughout the day. While that may sound daunting, the longer you do it, the easier it gets, because just like anything, practice makes perfect. And I know calorie counting can be problematic for some people. For me, it's the only way I've been able to keep myself on a sustainable weight loss journey while being able to actually eat and enjoy food and not feel like I can't eat, but also know that I'm eating in the appropriate ranges and everything like that. So when I first started my weight loss journey and I started calorie counting, I didn't really think too much heavily into macros. I've focused more on macros now as I've been trying to kind of like, I guess, do some body recomp and things like that. But this video is just going to be talking about calorie counting and just like kind of how to do it. And I do always like to preface these videos. I'm not a nutritionist, not a doctor, not a dietitian, nothing like that. I'm not here to give medical or professional advice. I'm just here to help you share what I've learned on my weight loss journey. And if you need like real professional advice, please seek somebody who is more credible than me. Okay, so to calorie count, you're going to need a kitchen scale. This is my first kitchen scale that I ever had, and it is definitely beat. As you can see, all this metal lining has come off. I got this on Amazon. I think it was $8.99. I got a new one recently to just upgrade it. It usually has little feet under here to keep it even. Those all fell off. So yeah, this one's really old, but there's a bunch of them online. If you literally just search on Amazon kitchen scales, a bunch will come up. And also kitchen scales are also very helpful for baking as well. So kitchen scales are definitely a great tool to have in your kitchen, just in general, if you like cooking. So basically, here's the deal. When you have your kitchen scale, you're going to take your food. So let's say you have some berries you're eating. You would put your bowl down first, and then you hit this button here. It says tar, and you click that, and it would zero the scale out again. And then you will plop your berries in. So they'll say 50 grams of berries. Then what you do with that information is you open up a calorie tracking app. I personally like Chronometer, and then you would just put in blueberries, 50 grams, and it goes in there and it tracks it for you. And the reason this is important is so that way you know how many calories you're eating throughout a day. The only way you lose weight is if you're in a calorie deficit. Everyone hears the word calorie deficit and they're like, oh my gosh, that means they're not eating anything. No, it just means maybe you're eating 100 calories less, 200 calories less, 300 calories less. So if you normally would need 2,000 calories throughout the day, then you're eating 1,700, right? Something like that. And the way you find this out, in at least a generic non-professional way, is you could type in TDEE calculator or go to caloriecalculator.net, and you would just put in your information. It'll ask for your age, weight, height, your level of physical activity, and your gender. And then you put all that in, and then it'll say okay, so for me as a female who's 30 years old, I'm 5'3", I'm very active. It'll say whatever it says, I think it's 1,900 calories, something like that. I would just need to live my life, have everything be going good. So then you just eat slightly under that to be in a deficit. Everyone's deficit numbers are different depending on your starting weight, your height, your age, your activity level. So you can't really go off of what somebody else is doing. And just because even if you and me maybe do weigh the same and we're the same age and we're the same height, if I work out more than you or I work out less than you, my needs are just going to be different. And everyone's bodies are just different. And I find calorie counting to be the most important tracking and helpful tool, because if you don't count, then you're really not knowing what you're getting throughout the day. Because for example, this bag, Catalina Crunch, you guys know I love Catalina Crunch. The serving size on here is half of a cup. So do you know what half of a cup is? If you just reach your hand in here, do you know what half a cup is? I don't think so. Do you know what 36 grams is? I don't think so. I don't really know what it is. I've been doing this for so long and I can guesstimate, I can pour and estimate, but I still don't entirely know. So you would just take this, pour it into a little bowl on the scale, and then be like, oh, okay, cool, 36 grams, or if you want to have 50 grams or you want to have 60 grams, doesn't matter. You don't have to necessarily go off of the serving sizes on food. Eat to your goals and what you're trying to do and what you need for that specific meal, but you need to track. And the thing that's also confusing is every food is different, right? So if you look on the back of these are lupini beans, another one of my favorites. It says around 15 beans, 30 grams. Okay, we could sit here and count out 15 beans. That might be 30 grams. That might be 32 grams. That might be 34 grams. It might be 28 grams. And in your journey, those numbers can make a difference. A big place where I've definitely seen a lot of discrepancy is in like bread, because it'll be like one slice of bread, 28 grams, right? But then you weigh it and it's like 35 grams or 37 grams, right? Like, and that adds like an extra 20 to 40 calories, depending on the bread, depending on what it is. So, you know, you have to like really track in that sense. Another thing that seems to confuse people is how to track like pastas or rice, dry goods. You're going to track those dry. So let's say I want to have 2 ounces of pasta, 56 grams of pasta. I will take my little scale, put a bowl on it, tear it out. Always make sure you tear it out, always, because otherwise then you have to like add the weight of the bowl plus the pasta. That's like annoying math. And then you would just measure it and then you know. And the reason I like to do dry goods dry is because that's usually how the nutritional information is given to you on the back of it. And because then like pasta, when you cook it, it usually like doubles in size because it's taking on water, it's boiling in water. And that's like, to figure that out is like silly. Like to track it cooked, it's much easier to track it dry. The same thing with like tofu. Like, so when I track my tofu, I track it uncooked. I track it raw, like straight out of the package. Same thing with like tempeh, seitan, anything like that. Because when you cook it dry, you're cooking moisture out of it. So it's better to track it wet. And then if I press the tofu, I will also press it and then measure it because you're taking the water out. So, you know, things like that. Frozen veggies, I'll just track them from the frozen state. Fresh veggies, I track them fresh. And then like if I'm gonna roast them, like then I roast them, but I always track them fresh because again, like when you're cooking, it changes the nutritional value and like the weight of the food. Another thing that seems to, I guess, confuse people is like how to track like a recipe, like if you make a recipe. So let's say we're making a big pot of soup. We're gonna track everything. Like we're gonna weigh out, let's say we're making like a veggie soup. We'll weigh out our spinach, we'll weigh out our tomato, our carrot, our onion, our oil. And the reason I like Chronometer is because you can make recipes in it. So I'll track it all out. And so then like, let's say I have everything tracked, right? And then I will, before I start cooking everything, actually, I will weigh the pot that I'm gonna make it in so that way I know. Because like the thing is like once you make something in something, you can't like take it out. Do you know what I mean? So like if I'm making a big pot of soup and let's say that pot weighs 500 grams, I'll weigh that ahead of time so I know. Then I'll make all my soup. Once the soup is done, then I will see like the scales, let's say it says 3,000 grams. Then I'll subtract 3,000 minus 500, 2,500. Okay, the soup itself weighs 2,500 grams. And then from there, what you can do is, because in Chronometer, when it makes the recipe, you could see like, okay, so let's say like 400 grams of this soup is 100 calories, right? Something like that. So you could say like, okay, so I'm gonna have 800 grams of soup for 200 calories. I'm gonna track it right in my little Chronometer app. Done. Super easy. And that's the best way I have found to track recipes and to track like making big quantities of things. It's also the way I track when I do meal prep as well. I will just like put everything in and then I can divide it up based on serving size. And it's just worked the easiest for me. Just remember that tracking is a tool and it doesn't need to be crazy or tedious or overwhelm you. It's just a tool. It's just there to help you. It's just there to guide you. Like I said, for me, it's what's helped me. Like nothing else has helped me like calorie counting has. I know for some people, they like it, they don't like it. It feels a lot. Listen, it's a lot. It's a lot to be committed to. You know, I definitely have days where like I kind of just have stopped tracking, or like I have weeks where I'm just like not in my tracking groove. It happens. So, you know, just use it as a tool. But I just wanted to kind of explain it to you and show you how to track, because I know it's one of those things that like before I understood it, I didn't get it. I was like, I don't understand what a half a cup of this is. And in theory, yes, you could use measuring cups, but as you know, if you bake, if you're not precise in your tracking of things, then you're going to end up with more or less of that thing. So yes, I can measure out a half a cup of this, but the half cup may be 40 grams, it may be, you know, 34 grams, you know, where the serving size of this is 36 grams. So if I'm trying to get that half cup, I may not know if I actually got it or not, unless I use the scale. Scales are so cheap, they're so inexpensive, and they really are like, they're so great for baking. And actually, if you've ever looked at any of my recipes on Plant-Fully Based, like you will see that I put everything in grams as well for you guys, because if you want a recipe to be precise, then you should be using grams. But yeah, just use it as a tool, use it like to help you, and that's all you have to do. It's not that hard. And that's also why I think it's like sometimes I don't want to say funny, but when people ask me like, oh, do you have the nutrition information for this recipe? And I'm like, I do, but unless you make the recipe the same exact way that I made it, measuring it to a T with the same exact ingredients, we're going to have different calories. Like, we are going to have different amounts of protein, different amounts of fat. Like, that's just the way it is. So I really advise you to take the recipes, but then still create and track them with your own scale, with your own tracking app, because it is what it is. Like, we're not like all in the same kitchen together, and like that's why I advise you to do your things your own way, and like, you know, do it for yourself, not just because I told you, oh, this recipe is 450 calories. Like, maybe the way you made it came out to 300 calories or 500 calories, or, you know, whatever it is. So yeah, if you are curious about the foods that I don't calorie count, you can click and watch that video. And if you're looking for some more high protein vegan recipes, definitely be sure to check out the channel. I have a lot of them. If you are curious about sneaky ways to get in vegan protein, check out my last video. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with another video. Bye.